Can't tell who you are at that eyes. What's up, Brayden?
Yeah.
What's up, Brayden?
Wait, how does he know me?
What's up, buddy? I don't know your name. What's your name? The man, the myth. What's up, buddy? Okay, if you come in and find a seat, then we'll go ahead and get started. Boys hanging out there in the back. You sneaking out on me? Soccer boys? Ooh.
Right there.
Okay. Who agrees? Who relates? Most of us? You can make some noise. Make some noise if you're happy for spring. Me too. I hate winter. I hate winter so much. It's cold, it's dark, it's depressing, it's lonely. I like spring because it's like all the opposites of that. Everything's alive. During winter, everything dies. It's kind of sad. I also like spring because it's track season. So where's my track leads at? Yeah, there we go. This is where they're all hiding. Yesterday I said that same thing and everybody just stared at me. So, I actually hate winter so much. Sometimes I get depressed during winter. I get so bummed out during wintertime that sometimes I wonder how many winters I'm gonna have to endure in my lifetime if I don't leave Utah. Maybe someday I'll go somewhere warm. Do you guys know what the average life expectancy for a male in the United States is? 78 years old. Did you say 20 years? I hope not. I don't know with Corona though. 78 years. So if I live to the average age of 78 years, do you want to hit next for me? That's 78 winters. Right there on one slide. Well, good news, I've lived through 25. Go ahead. So that means I've got 53 left. Yeah, yay. Maybe that's a little bit morbid, but I hate winter, so it's okay. As I was thinking about this, it made me realize sometimes we think of time in days or hours or minutes or years. I was reading an article over the summertime that kind of talked about how instead of looking at time through what we typically do when we look at a clock, we can measure time through a series of events. So from one event to the next. And that's the basic idea of what time actually is. So I was reading this article, it was talking about how when we measure our life compared to events, it kind of changes our perspective on things. So if I only have 53 winters left in my life, that also means that I only have, go ahead and hit next, and next again, 53 Super Bowls left. Yeah, that's kind of sad, because there's been more than 53 Super Bowls already, so kind of sad.
He said he's going to live to his 100.
Almost halfway done with all the Super Bowls in my life.
That's kind of fast.
Go ahead and hit next again. Some other things that happen around once a year in my life. I go on a big camping trip or a vacation with my family. Sometimes it's a big trip, sometimes we go places like California. This year my family's going on a cruise. They're leaving me home because my wife's having a baby this week and we don't want to take a baby on a cruise. So they're going to the Bahamas and I get to stay home in the cold weather. So everybody shame my family for me, okay? But if the same pattern holds true and I go on one vacation a year for the rest of my life, that means I only get to go 53 places. Okay? All the places in the world that I could possibly go, I only get to pick 53 of them. Go ahead and hit next. And next again. There are some things in our lives that happen less frequently than once a year, but they're still kind of important. For me, I love the Summer Olympics. I love the Olympiad. In my lifetime, I've already seen, I think 5 Olympics. Go ahead and hit next. Yep, 6. 6 Olympiads since I've been born. Who knows if the 7th will happen this year. But if it does happen, then that means I only have 13 Olympics left to watch. And next. And next again. Since I've been alive, I have seen four or five. Four US presidents hold office. So if that pattern holds true, then in the next 53 years, I will see 8 more. So it means I'm a third of the way done with the amount of presidents I'll see. Go ahead and hit next. So, like I mentioned, I was reading an article over the summertime. You guys are probably like, wow, that's depressing. You're so morbid, Coach Pete. But I was actually reading this article, and I thought, wow, that really changed my perspective on what I do with my time. And I came across this video because I was trying to decide, I'm like, I want to share this with my students. And I came across this video that really encapsulated this idea of what do we do with our time. And it completely changed my life, so I want to share it with you guys. No sound. Hold on, we've got to get the sound working. There we go. It's in Spanish, so read the subtitles.
Pues una persona muy importante en mi vida.
Un compañero de vida de 10.
Sí, justo nos lo hicimos antes de venirme yo a Madrid.
Fíjate que lo te voy a decir, pero yo creo que es el único amigo que tengo.
Estás
Amigo.
Un hermano.
Gracias a ti me ha cambiado un poco la vida, como quien dice.
Y si no estuvieses, no sé qué haría sin ti.
La rutina, los horarios.
Hombre, por distancia. Él está en Barcelona, yo estoy en Madrid.
O sea, realmente no nos vemos más por mi falta de tiempo.
Siempre ha sido como una incertidumbre de cuándo será el próximo momento en el que nos volvamos a ver, ¿no?
Es una contradicción, no cabe duda. La gente afirma que sus seres queridos son lo más importante, pero la distribución de su tiempo no lo demuestra así. Esto tiene que ver con el modo en que funciona nuestro cerebro. Estamos programados para evitar pensar en el tiempo que nos queda por vivir. Así tenemos la sensación de que siempre tendremos la oportunidad de hacer las cosas que nos hacen felices. ¿Con cuánta frecuencia os veis?
Una vez al mes,
Bueno.
A lo mejor 2.
una vez cada, yo qué sé.
4 veces contadas, yo creo.
Sí, o 2 veces al año.
2 veces al año.
Yo 25 años. 32. 39. Yo 38.
Yo 47.
Y yo 44.
¿Sabéis que con lo que nos habéis contado podemos calcular el tiempo que os queda por pasar juntos?
Bastante.
¿Queréis saberlo?
Sí, por favor.
Sí.
Me parece muy poco.
Es un poco, ¿eh?
Eso es muy poco.
Qué terrible, ¿no?
Súper poco. Eso no es.
Eso está mal. No puede ser.
No me imagino no volver a verlo.
Esperaba años, no días.
Pues hay que hacer algo. Hay que hacer algo.
¿Cómo perdemos nuestro...? Porque lo perdemos, o sea, perdemos el tiempo haciendo cosas que no nos hacen felices.
Y que no cuesta tanto, que no vivimos tan lejos.
Ese día vale más muchas veces que todo el tiempo del mundo.
Voy a aparcar el móvil y intentar dedicar mi tiempo a las personas lo máximo posible.
Vamos a aprovecharlo.
It is an alcohol commercial. I don't endorse this product. Can you see why that video changed my life? Totally changed the way that I think about how I spend my time. It made me ask this question: how long do I have left with the people who matter most to me? Go ahead and hit next. You never know. Especially when the research says that we spend our time in interesting ways. The research says that the average person spends 3 years of their life washing laundry, 1 year and 3 months cooking food, 6 years eating that food. Some people it's probably more than that. 2 years driving, and 5 months sitting at a red light. I promise it's more than that. And 10.5 years at work. And that number's going up. People are working more, working later, and retiring later, so they're going to spend more of their life at work. 180 days exercising compared to 21 years sitting down. 9 years watching TV or Netflix. 1 year looking for something you lost. And one study from the UK said we spend 2 weeks snogging. I think that means making out, right? Is that what that means? So 2 weeks of your life you're going to spend sucking on somebody else's face. So some of you, I swear, you spend more time than that now. But go ahead and hit next for me. So the research says we spend our time doing interesting things. Some of those things might be important to us, but some of them not so much. I got curious after watching this video and reading these articles. So I did the math. On average, I spend about 1 to 3 hours a week at my parents' house. They don't live that far away. They live in Lehigh, and I live in Bluffdale, so it's about a 15-minute drive most days. I visit their house once a week. When I first did the math, I was only visiting twice a week. Or not twice a week, but once every other week, so twice a month. But I've increased my time since then. So on average, I spend about 2 hours, let's say 2 hours a week. So that's about 52 times a year. That's 104 hours a year I spend with my parents. My dad, he is 23 years older than I am, which means that if we both live to the average age of 78, I only have 30 years left to spend with him. In total, that's about 3,000 hours, or 130 days. The article that I was telling you about, he did the math on how much time he spends with his parents. He found out that when he had graduated from high school, he had spent 95% of all the in-person time he would spend with his parents. He'd spent that. 18 years old, and in the next 70 years or 60 years, he would only have 5% of all that time. Kind of ugly when you consider I spent about 4 hours a day on my phone at that time, which was the equivalent of 5 years of my life over the next 30 years. So after watching the video, I decided I was going to try and cut back on that, and I cut my phone consumption down by 1 hour a day. And just by doing that, now I average under 3 hours a day. That's about 1,368 days over the next 30 years, which is just, it decreased my cell phone usage, got me back 500 days of my life. So that's 1 year and 3 months that I just got back. 1 year and 3 months that I can spend doing something else that's important to me, rather than just scrolling through Instagram. But even with that extra 500 days, this comparison's still kind of ugly. I'm going to spend 10 times more time with my cell phone than I will with my dad over the next 30 years. And I'm not alone, and it's not my fault, per se. I mean, some of it is because I have no self-control. Oh, it got dark. Do we want to keep going in the dark? It's kind of weird. That's okay, I like to see your faces. It's becoming increasingly more difficult with every passing day to be present in the world that we live in, okay? We're bombarded constantly with distractions and things that take us away from the moment so that we can't enjoy it. But here's the secret, and the lesson for today is that you owe it to yourself to be present for your own life. Do you know what the most common regret for people who are on their deathbed is? They wish that they'd spent less time at work and more time with their loved ones. My prediction is that in the next, when our generations are ready to move on from this life, our regret isn't going to be that we wish we spent less time at work, but that we wish we spent less time on our devices or in other places when we were not really present. So this brings us to this idea of what is mindfulness. If you know anything about me, if you've ever taken a class from me, I talk about being mindful a lot. Mindfulness is this idea, it's the antidote to the temptation that we have to not be present when we're somewhere. Think about how, even now, just sitting here, many of us are thinking about something that happened yesterday, or we're thinking and we're worrying about something tomorrow, or we're texting our friends who are somewhere else, or we're doing homework because our mind is on homework, right? Those are ways that we show that we're not present, okay? Mindfulness brings us back to where we are in the moment so that we can fully enjoy the moment. Simply defined, go ahead and hit next. Mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judgment. And the without judgment part's key. Okay? Go ahead and hit next. So what does mindfulness look like? And next. These are a couple pictures. If you've ever taken a class from me, you know that we meditate. If you're one of my athletes, we meditate before competitions occasionally. So it might look like this. It might look like meditating. We don't usually sit like that, but it might look like meditating. Or it can look like music or dancing. It can look like a hike or sitting on a bench or observing the sunset. You think about when you're listening to music and you're not doing anything else and you're just focused on what you're listening to. It's kind of a soothing and relaxing feeling, right? That's why you guys always have your earpods in. It's because it's comforting, okay? Listening to music is a form of meditation. It's a form of mindfulness. Same thing with dance. Where are my dancers at? Any dancers in here? Yeah, there's a few of you. Yeah, make some noise. Woo woo. When you're dancing, your mind has to be on what you're doing, right? If you're thinking about the math homework that you have to do later while you're dancing, it's going to be difficult for you to express yourself. It's going to be difficult for you to dance and to feel what you're doing. So dancing is a form of mindfulness and a form of meditation, okay? Same thing with these hikers. They might be out and enjoying and observing where they're at. They might be thinking about something else, but when we're hiking, it gives us an opportunity to focus on what we're doing. The same thing with when we're sitting on a bench. You're just observing and taking in the present, okay? Go ahead and hit next. So why does this idea work? Why does just paying attention, why does it relieve stress? Why does it relieve some anxiety? Why does it make us feel better? Why does it make us happier? Hit next. So I'm going to skip over a lot of the sciencey stuff and just simplify it down. But the main idea is that by actually paying attention to the present, it actually changes your brain. It forces your brain to grow in a different way. You're challenging your brain to do something, okay? And it responds by the word is that it increases gyrification, which basically just means that as your brain grows, it folds, okay? So it increases the surface area of your brain and it allows you to regulate your emotions more effectively, to deal with stress, helps you to recognize and not to be controlled by your emotions. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, and this is why it helps with things like depression and anxiety, is that sometimes we think that we are our feelings, but you are not your feelings, okay? We all experience emotions, whether we know a wide range of them. Some of us, we experience negative ones, and we experience them frequently. And it's hard to deal with, and we can feel overwhelmed by them. But mindfulness teaches us that we are more than just our emotions, and that we are in control of what we do about them, right? We might not be able to control the fact that I'm sad, but I can understand that I'm sad, and I can manage those feelings and emotions. And that's what mindfulness can teach us and our brain to do. It trains us. So go ahead and hit next. So let's try a quick little mindfulness exercise before we take off for today. And this is just to show you how quick and easy it is to practice some mindfulness. So I just want you to sit back, comfortably in your chair, and I just want you to silently notice 5 things that are within your field of vision. And mouth them silently to yourself. Just recognize them. 5 things that you can see. Then 4 things that you can hear. 3 things that you can feel, either physically or emotionally. Maybe it's the contact of your feet with the ground or your back on the seat. Maybe you're holding hands. 2 things that you can smell. And 1 thing that you can taste. Hopefully you all brushed your teeth. Okay. What you just did is an exercise called grounding. And that brings your attention and your focus to the present. It brings your attention and focus to what you're doing right now. You just changed your brain. Congrats. Everybody give each other a round of applause. Nice job. Go ahead and hit next. So mindfulness is just practicing that. It's practicing paying attention in specific ways. And you can be guided to learn how to be a little bit more mindful in your life. But it is a skill, and it's something that needs to be practiced in order to be developed. And I can say from personal experience, I've been doing mindfulness for almost a year now. I meditate in some form daily, and I also use other kinds of techniques to help me stay grounded throughout the day. My wife would be the first person to tell you I'm a different person when I meditate, so I yell at angry drivers a little bit less. But it is a skill. It's a skill that can be practiced, and it's a skill that will change your life. Go ahead and hit next. We're bringing this back around to the main idea, right? And that's that you deserve to be present for your own life. You owe it to yourself to be present. So be present, and be present with the people that you care about the most, because in 53 years, when I look back at my life, the last thing I want to say is I spent how much time on my phone? And I only got to see my dad for 130 days, right? What did I do with those 130 days? And what did I do to maximize the time I have left with the people who I care about most? You're never promised tomorrow. So what are you going to do with that time? If you're interested in learning how to be more mindful and learning how to practice mindfulness and to be present for your own life, come find me in room E189, and we can begin your mindfulness journey together. So thanks for coming out, guys.